my goodness, man. I'm still buzzing over that sniper shot. Giannis and Alex Squeeze are trying to buzz their way through, coming back again. They kind of fell a little bit early, a little stumbling block, as the great monkey wrench from Sundown came through of his pick of Floki, Clement, and Nikos were able to walk away with that. This team currently is sitting in third place. Having a really strong performance right now, average placement of 10, so at least they're getting into it, but they're being super aggressive at the moment here. And I think it's just because it's a matter of knowing what's in front of them, knowing that this is going to be an easy conversion to send this trio to the lobby.
Yeah, they want to be able to close this gap and get the fight over with, but the longer they stand, the harder it's going to be. Big shots coming back out onto Janus without any form of return, down to 71 HP. Has plenty of utility to be able to help himself out. Open shot there, he's going to be able to get it onto Swaps, clean that one up. No down, but not out. Inserts as the full trio being clear, and Squeeze barely got away with HP there.
And, you know, they're being aggressive here. And they kind of couldn't afford to, considering that they already qualified. You mentioned 4ZR, who did not make it to this match. I know I took a look at the social medias to see what happened to 4ZRs. They were saying they're kind of messing around in the last couple of games. They only needed 20 points to qualify, and they were just W-keying. They didn't realize that they were not going to make it, and before you know it, they don't make it. But I kind of agree with you on that aspect as we're joining on here with Letwick, Jamside, and Quavato, a team that's already qualified. It's just a matter of keeping your knife sharp and keeping that edge. And I know people like to say that this is just qualifiers. It could be just practice for them, but the way you practice is the way you play. And going into a big time Heat 1 and Heat 2 next week, you gotta bring it.
You have to bring it, especially when you get the finals. Those heats are just so contentious. Needing to get to that top 8 position is incredibly difficult in these lobbies. We can see right now Quavato, Letwick, and Jamside trying to find a little bit of room here to get some shots down, using a good angle from the natural cover of the roof to really make sure his opponent can't kind of get any shots back onto him, but he's not finding anything that's really going to enable him. And with Storm Surge kind of just above, they're only 54 above that threshold. Now remember, Storm Surge, and right as I talk about that pushing through, going to get the knock right away, get the conversion onto it, puts him well above that threshold. Storm Surge punishes the most passive players in the lobby, the ones who have done the least amount of damage to their opponents, by doing 25 damage every 10 seconds. So you want to make sure you're above that threshold.
Interesting enough, Jamside's trio is landing in Stark Pond in upstate New York as rifts go out and people are making their rotations. Eric, Vato, and Leo were landing there in week 1, the day they qualified. In week 2, we have Miro, Snap, and Swag land there. So many of these trios are kind of going to put themselves in a strange situation, an awkward situation to say, you know, so many people qualify from this spot. Are we going to try to qualify or mix it up? So it's interesting to see maybe where did Airwalk change it up in Leo and Vato? Where are they switching up? Because right now it's not working out for them as Jamside, Letwick, and Quavato are doing really well. But Quavato in a tough situation here as he's now being lobby focused, and you have been chosen. You have been lobbied.
And the second you see those white damage markers come out, that fire is only going to pour on that much more. He had the flop, he was able to pop it, but if he took the time, he wouldn't have been able to cover himself on the walls. Going down there, just unfortunate rotation coming out of the rift.
That is the risk of rifts, as you see more people risking that opportunity, more beams, more tags from KS Light getting it in. Can't really convert and get that shield break, but now it's an opportunity. Fresh builds. I mean, everybody's going to try to squeak on through, trying to get their bullets through that build, as we're going to see the rest of the lobby kind of going into Holly Hedges. Shout out to the P-Doggins of the world. This is the P-God land right now, and now we're seeing so much build. I think at this building, I'm trying to remember the trio. That is someone's build that, of course, that they've been there for a long time, and they most likely utilize the rift at the moment. But now we're taking a nice shot here of Sweaty Sands, which is happening to be the place to be in EU. For solos, it was Steamy Stacks, but now for EU trios, everyone who's successive, 4ZR and Elix, goes to Sweaty Sands. So it's interesting to see who's going to kind of claim that spot going forward into the FNCS trios, as we're seeing the really late rotation from Refsguard, but the battle is happening here in Holly Hedges. It's kind of like a throwback for me, even though this is a new POI into the Chapter 2. Kind of reminds me of the old school places of, I guess, Salty Springs, Greasy Grove, to name a few. Oh, man. Does anyone miss taco time? Because I sure do.
I think you're probably the only person who misses taco time in their
It's in my blood. It's in my blood, baby.
As we hop on board here with Hen, we saw him camping over in the box, just trying to get a little bit of room. That fourth zone will be revealed here in a second, so we'll see who will need to rotate where, and trying to find a little bit of room, getting some tarp in, and boom, there goes fourth zone. Pretty much as west as you'll see it. There is all land in play just north of Holly Hedges there, but plenty of flat space, so a good old-fashioned Fortnite ending.
And this is going to be a strong advantage for the players and the trios that like to fight on the low ground. We saw it in the previous round where the low ground was able to get the victory royale as Lepi gets greeted right then and there with a shotgun blast from Hen, and it's going to get converted into leaderboard points as Nakos is going to clean that up, but that means the green light comes through. You got to be careful here. You're going to have these fights here in mid-game. You're going to have the attention of the lobby, and that is what's happening right here. You mentioned it, Sundown. Is the 3 points worth it? Are you going to hold on to the mobility? Now, Hen and Deceptos and Patrick have a big problem to solve right in their face.
A big problem to solve, and plenty of people in the way as well. You can see Hen doubling back into the zone, trying to find the cabbages and whatever utility he can, going to pick up the sniper, knowing that he doesn't have room for it, will have the extra flopper there, that he's going to opt to pop, so actually a little inefficient in terms of the usage of health there, but they know they're going to need every little bit as they get through, and a big pickup from Hen there, finding Rachiquito. They're going to toss him back, make sure they can maximize on the Storm Surge and get whatever utility away from that, and that bandage cannon is going to be huge.
Rachquito with the poquito chance of surviving that as the trio is all together. And this is the style of fighting hip to hip at the moment. But now this trio has to make a dangerous trek here. We're talking so much eyes are looking their way and they're expending so many hard mats. And here it is, the attention of the lobby. Down goes Hen as the pressure's proving too strong. But Patrick is still alive. Patrick now is going to have to deal with Stir6 and Vettel. And Vettel is going to go in with the big time crash pad play. And Patrick now is on the back foot trying to retreat as much as possible. This is going to be a scary situation for them. That trio has a long ride to go, considering that they're on top of the board here. But now we're going to take a look here at someone else that's on the bottom side of the board, already in the same situation as Clement. 0 points. But can Legendary and Raja and Lucia turn it around? And it begins right here with a nice elim.
And a good pickup. Nitox looking clueless there in his box. Gets peeked on from the top from Lusha. Legendary also going to convert on 2 on the side there. That'll get them on the board. First 3 points of the day as we now have our 4th zone closing in. As soon as the replay catches up, we'll see where that half in, half out zone will be revealed to.
And this is it. Half safe, half out. We've already seen dangerous rotations, what it can cost you. Is the trio going to be able to go in full force, or are you going to lose someone along the way? That could totally happen here as we're seeing Floki, Nakos losing Clement. A strong team here that kind of microwaved up, shot the save ways up all the way to the top of the board with a very strong performance. If you're just tuning in here, folks, Floki, Clement, Nakos had a 16 elim and the Victory Royale, which gave him so many points. Got him 41 points total so far and got him into that first place. Let's see if they could hold on to it here at the moment. Already, this is going to be an opportunity to make sure they get that massive refresh that they need, considering if you take a look at their build material, not looking so hot here. But Zone 5 has been revealed, the half in and half out. The great news for this trio is they do not have to make a big trek. And we already saw the treks can be quite treacherous. I'm going to stay on board here and see how it all unfolds. Floki still holding tight, holding the wall as much as possible. Getting me some flashbacks. Hold, as they say. Now the opportunity is we are still not in placements. 3 trios have to go down. And the way it goes here in trios, it could be literally anything. It could be one team, it has one solo that's ratting their way through or snaking their way through builds. As a nice elim pickup, is it going to be enough for the refresh? Yes, they get some nice materials out of that one. Now we're taking a look on board at another point of view of Nakos, the other one, where, again, Floki got himself 8 elims. Huge. Now we're seeing right here an opportunity here for Nakos and Floki to make sure that they keep the momentum. In this 12-game set, a lot could happen in those 12 games. The consistency, like I mentioned, is going to be the term of the day. That consistency can kind of stamp your way in. I mean, the consistent nature of it is that we already had a back-to-back. The 4ZR trio did not make it, not even out of round 1. And he couldn't even make it here. So that's what we're going to see here is you got to stay on point with a nice double crash pad. Look at this godlike rotation. This duo now has to kind of be magnetized and come back together. Now this is going to be a scary situation. When you make these kind of godlike rotations like that, there it is. The comfort as a duo holds on, even though they just dealt with someone just shockwaving right through for a split moment. But that is going to be the interesting thing that you're seeing in the trios, is you're going to see a trio essentially kind of separate and come together in those scary moments, as I mentioned. Even though Halloween's around the corner, those scary moments of trying to get together. And yes, there's a breathe a sigh of relief, but look at Nakos's inventory. He has 4 floppers, so he can make some crazy rotations here. As we're taking a look at the overview that you see, you're seeing all the teams scrambling. This is the backside of the zone, so all these teams are being so much pressure as they're making their way through.
Yeah, this is getting crazy and crazy. And I'm going to jump in here because Sundown fell out, but it's all right. We have plenty of action unfolding as Nakos is trying to snake his way through. Floki's still landing as well. Remember, with Clement out of the game, I mean, they're not finding the Elans like before, but still, Sancho, they're following up, and they're answering the call back-to-back now.
Absolutely, they're clutching at the right moment, and poor baby girl getting converted into Elan points, and they're not done yet, Monster. Legendary gets knocked right there, and this is where they're talking about the box fighting skill is breaking out right here and right now, and what a big opportunity. Are they going for height? Oh my goodness, I got a little bit nervous from there.
I was going to say, they have the arsenal to do so, but on high ground, my gosh, it's Tace and Mongrel, and once again, they're holding it down. You're going to see the Elam just pop over as Noah tries to go up. That's going to be a mistake from them. Back down with Floki, though. Last game, they had 16 eliminations. They're looking to continue that story here today. There's 26 players alive into Zone 7, moving into 8. So much left on the table, and you have to assume they're going to find more.
And you gotta assume as well, Monster, is that so many other trios are in shambles as well. Duos and solos just running out about. So that gives Floki and Clement and Nakos here a strong opportunity. And you know that even though Clement is spectating this, he's giving all the comms as possible, as Floki does. Almost gets an Elam right then and there, just sneaks right away as Tayson is cooking up in the Elam feed. And we kind of took a moment there, Monster. I bet you they're on high, and I bet you they're looking for an opportunity to kind of reverse their fortunes and get the victory royale this time around.
100%. They definitely have that high ground once again here. It's looking like a repeat of performance. It's not every day you get the second breath of wind here in the final moments to do it again. We'll see how it's going to all be written out here as the low ground now is being held by Floki here, looking around. Marks a player on the side of the zone. That's going to be a massive one. They needed the material, and now they get the refresher here. In a bit of an upgrade, that is huge. Mobility as well, crash pads here. They're looking to send players down to that low ground. They want every single frag that they can find here. And just take a look. The wide shot gives us the full picture. Players are looking to rotate in, and they're ahead of the zone now.
2 stories so far. On your right side is Mongrel, who is kind of making his way down, and on the low is Nakos, who's doing the work and stuff. But right now, it's a fight for height. On the top left that you see, Blaster and Nikov are making this big fight. Mongrel is going to be there with them, but is it going to be enough? This is some big-time clashing that's happening out there. Mongrel is now sitting up so high, but Alpha goes down, Blaster goes down. It's all up to Nico to kind of hold on to his Mongrel. Oh my goodness, Mongrel! You are a beast, sir!
He hit that shot on the way down. Actions speak louder than words, and Mongrel is here to answer the call. He's putting up the shot, the 200 pump, the follow-up on some ref's guard. What is happening? Mongrel, what are you doing? Can they clutch this out? It doesn't even matter. There's still 3 on high ground. Enough HP as well. The siphon comes through. Let's go. 8 eliminations before he gets taken out. And the low ground, Nakovs managed to find another one. Now it's up to him here to continue it out. Only a couple ticks left here, but inside the zone, it's Endazar. He's on high ground. I think it's going to be enough here. The final ticks, he's jumping in. Can he find a shot? No, he doesn't get it in time.
Mitro reverses the fortune of Mongrel and Tayson, and they pick up the victory royale. The closer in Mongrel was huge. Monster D-Face, what a finish.
That was a ridiculous endgame there. What a way to close out that game number 3. I mean, that's just the halfway point here and now. We're going to toss it over to the Desto to break it down.
Thank you so much, MDF, for stepping in there. Guys, what a game. Game number 3. Again, we have 6 games today, 6 games tomorrow. So we're halfway done with just the games today. And you're probably looking at these trios and looking like saying, there's just too many names. There's too many of these trios that you look any which way, and you have all of these power trios, some that have already qualified, some that are looking to qualify, and then you have Mongrel, Micho, and Tasty just walking around and be like, no, guys, okay, look, we'd like the victory royale now, please. I mean, what's going on?
It's over and over again every single time with these guys, right? And they're always doing it in a way where they're strong the whole way through. It's never shambles. It's clutch, but it's not that solo type of clutch we see every single time, Reese.
Yeah, and these guys kind of, if they get off spawn, because they're contested by Jaspay's team right now, so if they get off spawn, these guys are taking it second and then first so far. So that early game contention is going to be interesting to see if they're going to able to actually consistently get off spawn, or if this is going to keep happening.
Let's see here. Now, just a reminder, the badge on the left does mean that the team has already qualified on through heats, so we can see our top 5 is already through. But right now, they're chasing that number 1 spot. Mongrel, Mitro, who is F1 through 4, and Tayson, right now they're holding it down after the 3rd game. But, I mean, we still have another 3 games today and 6 tomorrow, so I feel like the story is going to be more focused on which teams are making it into that top 15.
Yeah, and as much as that is a thing, it's also like conditioning overall as well. I mean, if it is about holding off the top 15, and if it is about that gatekeeping overall, these top 5 teams have been doing it and have had experience doing it week after week after week, Reese.
Yeah, and you can see this kind of top 3 starting to really kind of solidify themselves right now. That last game had 3 huge performances. Tayson, Mongrel, and Mitro, 17 eliminations victory royale, as we've seen. But Clements, Nakos, and Floki with 9 eliminations third. And then Andalex, X-Squeeze, and Janice with 8 eliminations second. So these 3 teams in the top 3 right now are all playing out of their mind.
Yeah, and past that too, all the way towards the top 10. We're now seeing people solidifying their spots. We're not in that 20-point range anymore. We're jumping over to the 40s, over to the 30s. Kinzel still here in 7th. Vettel, iDrop, and Stir6 now in 6th. Hen, Decyptos, Putrick, Amplify, ADN, Matzo. I mean, Reese, these are now just top teams that if this was a Heats, if this was a Grand Finals, this looks like a realistic leaderboard.
It really does, And, you know, what we'd seen to start with was like a Vettel, iDrop, and Star6 in that first game really popping off with kind of that second with a ton of eliminations. But after that, they have dropped. And now sometimes they're in 28th, and then they came in 10th. So these guys still have the potential to really kind of clutch up, continue that throughout the next 3 games today and then 6 games tomorrow. But, you know, they were off the hot start, and then, you know, the tracks are kind of rolling a little bit slower.
Yeah, the tracks are really kind of getting very similar looking now towards 11th to 15th, all the way possibly to bottom 33. We're looking at these elims on this page, 10 to 6, not that much of a difference from trio to trio in terms of play style. There isn't someone that looks a little bit more shinier than others. Everyone's like in their space right now, and I feel like that's a good thing, Reese, because that means these guys all have a pedestal and potential to pop off in that next game. We talked about Robabs, Blackie, and ZQ. I mean, these guys very, very consistent, but will consistency keep them in that top 15?
I think it will. Yeah, I think it will. It's like I said, we've already seen teams drop in, drop out of that top 15, and you know, we've said multiple times already at the start of this day, it's too early to kind of say if these teams are going to be consistent up there, because these kind of 5th all the way down to 15th changes so frequently from the people who are just under that threshold. So, you know, these teams is very, very consistent overall. So I think they'll probably stay there throughout today and tomorrow, but we'll really need to see if that's actually going to be consistent or not.
There's just so much that we have to be cognizant of, you know, when we're looking at the standings, when we're looking at the drop spots, and we're not even in heats yet, right? Like, this is the level of Fortnite we're seeing, and there's still next week is just going to be turned up to 11 when we're watching the heats, we're watching that wildcard match, and then eventually watching grand finals. So make sure you guys are paying attention for so much. Now, what we need to do is, now that we're kind of 3 games in, we have to get a vibe check on the entire layout, who and how these trios are kind of holding on right now, especially when you had the last 3 games to go. You want to really get yourself in a place going into tomorrow that you're feeling really, really strong.
Absolutely, and I'll be your flight captain taking you the whole way through. Keep your hands and ears and feet inside the vehicles at all times. We have a helicopter update mid-game for one of the top trios in the scene right now in this qualifier week 2, Reese.
And we really want to kind of take this back to see how the propellers are flying off between games 2 and games 3. They kind of struggled a little bit through game 2, right? It was a bit more difficult. They were going down, getting tagged by Storm Surge. As you can see here, 177 damage below at this point. Getting touched over and over and over again. And this X-Squeeze, which is Duck on top, really kind of struggling with this Storm Surge damage. They're trying to make an aggressive play, but still consistently being tagged by it over and over and over again. And unfortunately, X-Squeeze goes down.
Yeah, if you look over to your left outside the window, game 2 is a struggle for Andalex, Janice, and X-Squeeze for the moment. And Andalex is still in trouble just trying to survive all the way on this low ground. The altitude is all the way towards the ground. It's not looking that tight, Reese.
It's not, and as you can see, Janice just starting to go down immediately here. Last one, and there was really almost nothing they could do at this point. It was already too late.
Well, hold up,
least, I'm getting some turbulence in the ship right now in the helicopter.
We're looking at game number 3, and things are actually switching up for the trio. It looks like in this instance, in this game, the one we just watched, things actually went a lot better.
It did. In this game, they had their seatbelts tucked in, and they were tight, and they had read their safety cards, no doubt, even while driving. And at this point, they were just getting consistent Storm Surge tags all the way through. A little bit of a side note, incredible snipe by Nikov coming through at the same time. Oh
Just
my lord.
disgusting.
I know.
That
And this is
was
a mid-game.
nasty.
They end up taking a mid-game fight, and you can see actually headshot sniping the down player of Jakey there. Because they obviously struggled with the Storm Surge at the start, so they intentionally pushed out to the west, which is a strategy they consistently do in their previous weeks. They're always looking to go to the dead side of the zone to fight a team because there's going to be less players around there, and they can get maximum Storm Surge tags.
Yeah, getting those Storm Surge tags is so crucial to make it towards the end. Unfortunately, they didn't make it too far. Past that, we saw that end game. We saw Mitro all the way on low, just absolutely dominating shot after shot. That siphon gives him one tick to stay alive, get the victory royale. But at the end of the day, that was the tour of game 2 and 3. We'll have another playback of that. Psych. Sometimes the helicopter gets a little bit shaky when we're in the air, but I was your captain. My co-pilot was Reese. We hope you had a joyous ride.
Man, you know, I wish I had voice effects, but I'm kind of glad I don't because I'd be using them. But good stuff. You like to see this breakdown here. We enjoy our jobs quite a bit. Man, that is pretty much it, though. Right now, we've had the 3 games kind of down. So what we're going to do now is we need to step away. We need to hydrate, and we'll come back. So Fortnite fam, just get up, get a snack, return, and we'll have the last 3 games here from EU and the FNCS. We'll see you in just 5. Welcome back, Fortnite fam, to the FNCS. We are here in the EU in week number 3. 3 games have already been completed, and now we are back for the last 3 games of day number 1. Don't forget, we're back tomorrow, same time, same place, for the last 6, where then the top 15 trios will be moved on to the heats next week. That being said, it is time to hop back in a game, so for now, we're sending it over to our casters, Sancho S and Sundown, to take us into game number 4. Let's get it.
Game 4, it is time. We're about to like a mini halftime, so to speak, and we're getting right into the action as we're jumping on board our Game 3 victory royales, where they were able to reverse their fortune. And I think one of the big reasons why, Sundown, that they were able to walk away with the victory royale was that Mongrel was there. Last time in game 2, he wasn't there. He went down before that final push, and Tayson and Mitro were unable to close the door there. But Mongrel was a big factor there and was able to put in some nice elims. One of the strongest closers in the EU region. A lot of Mongrel's eliminations come in at in-game. But, hey, Mitro is no slouch either. Mitro was the only one to get a big-time knock, get that siphon, and hold on true for the victory royale.
Yeah, and you can see right now, actually, Mongrel and Tayson both picking up knocks, haven't quite been confirmed into eliminations. You can see trying to make sure they're going to end up getting these players coming out of the storm, because every single point does matter. This kind of goes back to my other point about herding kittens. I mean, Tayson said trying to IGL Mongrel and Mitchell at the same time. It's like, frag, we got these guys. He's like, no, stay, play late. And Mitchell's just like, no, go. It's like trying to tell Mitchell and Mongrel not to go. It just doesn't really work, even to the point right now, Mitro still hanging out a little bit extra, making sure he gets the down again, because something that's important to note, if you knock somebody and they get revived and then you don't get any damage on them again and then they end up going down, you're not going to get the elimination point on it. So that revive is effectively just denying them those elim points, as they're going to have such a long rotation. Mitro still just doing his best to kind of hang out, get shots back in towards the storm. He finds another one. That's Baby Girl Fly getting put down there. We've seen, you always say can't put Baby in a corner, but that's really all that's happened here in EU, as Mitro picking up another knock there, and hopefully they'll be able to convert at least one of these into an elim. You have to think eventually that team will go
there. It is.
There it is.
Yeah, and these, every point that matters. Each elim is 1 point. 4th through 17th gets placement points of 1. 3rd, 2nd get a little bit of bonus right there, and of course the victory royale 25 points. And they are using that whiplash created by Tony Stark so well, and we haven't even talked about this. The removal temporary of gas canisters has kind of changed the way these rotations are, so that increases the value. As another elim, I just think right now we saw Captain Shayo taking us through. They're flying at a high, like the highlight right now. They're on a G6. They're on an entire different level. They're flying through the competition right now, and that is why I picked them to walk away with the victory, big-time dub royale here in week 3.
So I think it's, again, I don't want to say I think it's easy to kind of talk about just how dominant they've been. But you can see Kinzel, one of the 3 EU players to make every solo finals this year, FNCS and DreamHack going through. Somebody else who's been able to be a little bit consistent. I mean, they're so good. We talked about it a little bit before. They're so good when they're good and they're on. But again, as we've seen in this week, they're more than capable of just getting 50-50 out at that spot. And we've seen teams opt to end up going over to Stark as a pivot drop point, as opposed to a lot of other places, simply because the amount of loot that's there, if you are able to get control, then you're able to just really rack up kind of the points that's associated with it. But winning that fight against those 3 players is just such a monumental task that it really seems like nobody wants to challenge them consistently. And if they have that loot and they don't make a mistake, then the onus generally has been on them to not lose the game. They will have high ground control. They will be raining down shots. They will hit those shots. As we're hopping on board here, Seventor and Link, little bit of a struggle bus today. 0 points so far after the first 3 games. Let's see if they can pick it up here in game number 4.
And that 3rd user is Freemock. Yes, the struggle, the shambles, whatever you want to say, low on points, 0, goose egg, nothing, nada, zilch, all those kind of metaphors and sayings means you could only go up from here, baby. You know what I mean? You got to turn that negative into the positive. You got to find the motivational warrior within and try to find a way to get on the board. It could be this game right here, right now for Link Fremont and 7 Tour to turn it around. I believe I like to be the Nikkei 30 in me, the power of positivity, just to believe that they could get it done. As we're seeing some explosions happening, and we're taking a look at the zone here, the mini-map on the bottom right, we're seeing that this is going to be a finish that's going to be around the caddy corner area, and big time, Trade Hard gets eliminated so far, but Link gets knocked for a moment, so that's going to be unable to capitalize, but they do lose Fremont in that exchange.
What a weird fight. I mean, he has 4 shockwaves. It makes sense to hit that, but he gets hit with just a monstrous 180 shot before getting the siphon. Then opts to shockwave disengage just completely away from the rest of his team as one of his teammates gets cleaned up. That's 7 Tour. It's going to get confirmed over there. We're going to hop back on board here with Hen, Deceptors, and Patrick. Big shot coming out from Hen. That's 110 to the back, cracking the armor there. And the push is going to come in. You can see throwing that ramp out and editing it just so he can see through there. And he finds another back-to-back connections. The second one being a headshot, though. Mick the Beast doing his best impression there to catch the bullet. And now the push is on.
The spirit of Thomas HD is around, not competing today, but is already qualified. But you're just seeing the talent pool, how deep it is. We're talking about 12-footer, 15-footer. I don't know how much is that in meters out there. I know the conversion is real. I'm an American. I don't know much about that metric system. But what I do know that Hen is converting so many big-time players into one-pointers on their leaderboard. The conversions are real. The science is there. And Hen is going to go for another one. And Hen is not, he can't be stopped. He's not going to stop. The only thing that may stop him here, Sundown, is the storm damage.
Yeah, it's just weird, though, because if he's going to take that fight, which he'll ultimately end up getting with the Storm taking it over, and the Siphon really keeping him still in play here after he messes up that rotation as well. But I felt like at least one of his teammates could have turned and maybe helped him with a little bit of a rifle shot to figure out what was going on there. But ultimately, good job to get out of it. Not clean, but sometimes you don't have to be the best. You just have to be better than the person across from you. And Hen's going to be the one who rules the roost. As now we're going to rotate on over. Milan, Alexa, a.k.a. Queasy, and Chapix making the rotation along the outside of the mountain. But right now, up on the high ground there, you can see Fazil and co. You have Sapiros just towards the outside there with Jerky and Halfdom, occupying a little bit of a split ground there. You can see they don't necessarily want to contend all the way for high ground yet, as now we get a battle down here on the low ground. We got Squeeze, Janice, and Andelix trying to trade some shots across these boxes.
Nice shots going through the double beams. You're seeing the window edit, sending everything through. You're hearing the harpoon go out, but for a brief moment, they got a 180 turn their attention right there. But the big time thing that they're going to have here is a huge factor would be their shockwaves. 5 shockwaves in their inventory, and that is something you want to highlight, bold, underscore. You want to kind of blow up. I don't know what kind of Photoshop you want to do. That is going to be a huge factor for them going forward. If they could hold true, if they could navigate, not only that, it's going to be able to, they can have 5, so they can spend some in navigating this dangerous rotations. You're taking a look, the mountainous danger that's ahead of them. They could kind of expense that there, Sundown. I know they want to hold on to it, but hey, it doesn't matter if you've been eliminated. You got to use them or lose them.
And more importantly, too, if you think you're going to go down, you can't save that utility for later, and you don't want it trickling into the next person. So use every tool at your dispense right now. Here's CRR trying to get a sneaky little double edit going on. You can see setting himself up. Teammate above him will edit down Wolfies, but he's going to find the shot there onto Snowda. Can he get the cleanup? Will get it. Can he get back over to cover Wolfies? Some rifle fire coming into the back. Good job covering himself up right now, but CRR in a little bit of trouble. Is going to miss the edit for a second, but he's going to find it. Absolutely zero build. So looking for just a little bit of space. Instead, going to take the rifle fight. The question is, does he win it? We'll wait for that replay to catch up real quick. And no, never going to win that one. Doxson able to pick up another Elam on the last side. That's Janice and Andelix who are going to go over, but they're not going to find much loot for the pickings there. Only the extra 150 builds, so just 15 mats coming out of that. As now we're hopping on board here. Alpha, Blaster, and Nikov. Billy Goats up on the hill in 5th zone, pulls out. They're going to shockwave and try and maintain some semblance of height control. Instead, nope, just going to opt for the ground as somebody has already gotten there and pulled that 4th zone special, Sancho.
And we saw here, that is what happens in these rotations as a trio. The shockwave is just so difficult to kind of control your trajectory. You could take the time to do the build to kind of send you forward, but there's going to be a moment, there's like a mad scramble, as we saw in the previous game, a mad scramble for you to kind of reunite. And there is always a sigh of relief when you get together, when you say, on me, in a positive way, not that you're looking for some elims. When you say on me, get together, kind of reunite, and that's where the in-game leaders come into play. They kind of keep everyone together. They are the yarn between everybody. They keep even those crazy dogs out there on a leash as much as possible to hold true before they send them out to get elims, like the mongrels, like the mitros. And they are seeing Nakos picks up an elim on Mappy. Mappy did really well on the DreamHack stage, making it to the grand finals, but Mappy unable to find a footing right now. One of those teams that needing the big-time qual as Doxson gets eliminated from Alpha. I've been liking this squad, this trio here, Sundown. They've been consistent, and they've been doing really well. They have an opportunity to kind of vault their way or ollie their way up the leaderboards with a strong finish here right now.
Well, and Alpha and Blaster have been around forever. They're originally the dual media duo back in the World Cup days who qualified together, then adding in the veteran of Mikov. You can see they play that very similar style that we've seen out of a lot of other French trios where hip to hip, get a layer, stick together, and when you go as one. But right now we see Paco, Jachu, and Wave Advise trying to find a little bit of room here. Not necessarily going to find it, but also not finding much contention. They have like a little bit of space, but not necessarily a ton. Jachu has been taken down, so it's just Paco and Advise trying to navigate on this low ground area, which is going to get very congested very quickly as we move into zone number 6. That's the start of those full moving zones. It's Paco just trying to navigate from the other side of the wall. We're going to cut away here and see who has control of the front side of the zone, who's in the backside chaos, and then who's up top. And there you go. You can see right away players trying to get out of the backside chaos. That's Paco. He says, nope, first try wasn't enough. Going to hit the bouncy castle again. He lands on top of Wolfies for the 200-0. Say goodbye. That's the second place in the World Cup duo with Rojo being taken down there. And excuse me, are you trying to stick a revive right there? Absolutely no way. Paco makes him pay for it. 5th elimination coming out. 18 trios remaining. 42 players left. Next trio to fall will miss out on the placement points as we are now into the end game.
And this end game is going to be a tough one to kind of navigate as the terrain is getting more highly elevated right there. This is the old school Blaster and Nikov and Alpha trying to make sure they kind of hold on. And there it goes. It's actually going back. So they're going from the back side of the storm to the front side. And already, this is what's great for the trios to kind of keep tabs of their builds. They're going to be able to navigate through it. And bang! Eliminated. Refsguard gets lobbied right then and there. Refsguard was doing his best, ratting his way. I saw him Billy going on the side, but he ran right into the blast of Blaster. 5 right then and there. 1 point going towards this trio. But this is what you're seeing. This is going to allow the people that are on the low ground to kind of wait around a little bit, but at the same time, it gives a huge advantage to the people on the high ground because all they have to do is recycle their build, Sundown.
And right now, back on board here with one of only the 2 trios to make every single one of those round 3s. Amplify, ADN, Matzo. Again, low ground, backside of zone. Generally, they're hip-to-hip. Amplify right now, searching for a drop-down. He's got to get it. 56 on the first. Will he find the follow-up? And he does. It's Sapiros cleaning up one of the solo. That's a 2-point elimination. 1 for the placement, 1 for taking down the player. And as you can see, we'll have chug splashes as well. Going to opt to use them on himself, so not necessarily the worst decision. You can see them allocating the correct resources, and this is how a top team plays the end game. We've seen it time and time again, and if you want to study, if you want to know how to play the low ground and how to play multiple positions, keep an eye on Matzo, Amplify, and ADN. They do it so incredibly well. Finding space to just kind of navigate. That's Matzo getting the conversion onto Mappy there. Letwick also gets a knock onto Mongo. He'll get that full conversion. Mitro goes down to Amplify. Amplify ending up with a great little ambush. He makes it a double. Now he's got to find the outside of the zone, but no movement. Will have the bouncer. Doesn't have anything to necessarily connect himself to, so the question is, can he survive on the outside? He's now on the right side of the zone. You see Deceptos, Putchek, and Hand up on the current high ground. Amplify did get in. He's now on the front side of the zone. He met up with Matzo, a little pincer attack to keep him together. Hen is in the top right. Blaster and Code, though, cleaning up Amplify there. He's now in the bottom right and taking over with his 3rd elimination. You can see the zone pulling off of the mountain with Deceptos on the high ground on the left.
The Septos has a great split. That's the ultimate height, and you're seeing that Putrick is kind of sharing some more builds as Putrick and Hen are just going to apply the pressure. They are just squeezing down the bottom of it like a tube of toothpaste right now. They're going to get every squeeze as much as possible.
Blaster!
And this is where the Elim, Blaster is cooking up on the Elim. He is doing really well, cleaning up all the germs down below, and Putrick and Hen still have a strong position. No doubt the Septos on height will have some sort of mobility to get down, but the story is, can Blaster's trio kind of survive the onslaught of Hen and Putrick?
And he got shockwaves from that double. He got the double, and they're trying to go up. There's the first, there's the second, and they're up on the high ground. Blaster able to take it away, but Deceptos hits the falling shot. Alpha and Blaster meet their end, and the back of Hen. Hen now out in the zone, raining shots back in, has one flopper, gonna pop the flop, but he mistimed it. He popped the flopper as the siphon came in. He lost an effective time. Zone going to full close, but it doesn't matter. The young Englishman from Become Legends, ever since he won that solo cash cup on his birthday, he has been running 10 eliminations to himself, 13 total, pushing him up to 38 points. Match number 4. They're going to be contesting towards the top now, Sancho. That was nuts, and what a way to kick off the back 3 matches.
We're seeing new stars being established here in the FNCS trios, and everybody out there in the Twitterverse or the Fortnite fam, start thinking about Become Legends Hen. Really strong performance. We got to get a breakdown from the analysts, Shio, Rios, and Zeke. See you there.
Well, it looks like we're going to Rio, based on what Sancho said. So, yeah, we're going to Rio. Sick. All right, Rio. No, but seriously, great game from the trio here. I mean, I like to see this. You know, executing and firing on all cylinders. Deceptos chilling on the high ground. Hen and his trio, like his other duo, are just sitting there saying, okay, we don't want anyone to come up. So instead, we're just going to build down and force everyone below us to also descend and give Deceptos what he needs to get the victory royale. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the standings. This is game number 4. Remember, we have 6 games tomorrow and 6 games today. So a lot of these teams are trying to place as high as possible to head into tomorrow's games. Also, just a reminder, those badges on the left means that this trio has already qualified on through heats. So the top 5, they're already all through, Shy.
Already all through, and we're only on day number 1. Also, remember, we're having a 2-day format now where these guys play 6 games over 2 days. Just 4 down now, and Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson are still on top.
They are, and this top 5 is really starting to shape up with all these kind of teams starting to be really, really consistent. Again, Andalix, Janus, and X Squeezed. Another 5th from then. Mongrel's team 9th with 6 eliminations. Blaster's team with Nikov and Alpha had a huge pop-off, 8 eliminations, and placing a 3rd there as well.
Yeah, past that too, we see that second page kind of changing overall up and down. Refsguard stomping and Scramfall down to 7th. Kinzel also gets knocked down a few pegs with Wolfies and Dump Truck in his trio. But overall, it just still seems like Reese the same 10 teams in the top 10.
They are, and they're all kind of like shuffling around, but staying within the same kind of position. Like you said, Kinzel, Wolfies, and CRR here, they seem to be kind of consistently struggling in that just near the placement threshold, right? Game 1, they were 11th, so they got 6 placement points in there. Then they had a great game coming 3rd, then it was 11th, then 19th. So there's kind of something in that mid game that they're having an issue with in terms of just getting into that longevity and getting into those good moving zones.
And this is kind of like a day 1, day 2 difference for Queasy, Milan, and Chapix. Usually, we see these guys in the top 5 throughout both days, but like we saw with Mitro, Mongrel, and Tayson last week's qualifier, these guys didn't have too hot of a day 1. It was still top 15. Then in day 2, they really just learned from their mistakes and just pushed it all the way forward, broke into the top 5 with win after win after win. We'll see if that's the case for this 11th place trio. Past that, though, Skyte, Falcon Lee, and Yaxo, I believe, are the names there in 12th place. 39 points, 12 elims. They're playing okay so far.
They are, and one of the things that you talked about there with Milan, Chapix, and Queasy, they were actually in 16th place before that game. You know, it started off not too strong, unlike last week. You know, last week they were consistently doing these great placements with high eliminations. This week not doing so good, but that last game they just came 2nd with 5 eliminations. So they really, really popped off. You see, that was the last player that Hen picked up right in the end there with a huge 197 pump was Queasy with basically just annihilating him from the end game. So that was really, really big game from that trio, especially taking them from 16th up to 11th.
And that's what you have to do, right? We talk about this, Sancho kind of mentioned it, converting, right? Being able to say, we have this early game lead, we need to convert in final eliminations and push that as far as we can to try and find the victory royale or placing even top 10 to help move you up the leaderboard. Now, guys, we have to talk about kind of, now that we're here in game 4, I mean, these end games in this last game was absolutely wild. I think we need to get the run back on that.
Yeah, this last game specifically, we had a whole wide shots, a bunch of different arrays of players, but Hen was really the one to secure the win for his trio.
He was, and those 2 floppers as his inventory are completely crucial. He actually ends up picking those up from his first elimination in the end game there. Oh my god, Alpha goes down. He ends up picking up these his first elimination, and they're hugely crucial. Without these 2 eliminations, he would have gone down. And a massive shockwave play to fly to the other side of the zone, and if he'd hit that shot, it would have been crazy. But managing to pick up still that huge 197 shot on Chapix.
Yeah, stacked, floppers stacked in terms of all the siphons that he had over and over. He went from 6 to 9 elims in a second. Just that's when all those stacks came in. Past that, here's a view from Chapix's POV, the second place preview, and he could barely even see Hen peek over that wall. It was an instant pre-fire shot that was just huge and amazing.
Yeah, you can see Stark Industries there, where our #1 team has been dropping so far. They were contested by Jaspay's team, and they seem to be completely dominating that drop so far.
Dude, that's what you just gotta do. Alpha up on these POIs. Just say, this is mine. Don't come here in grand finals or it's going to happen again. But of course, I like that, I guess. Guys, it is time to get into game number 5 with only 2 games. I mean, right now, it's not, and it's really, you know, we have this top 5 and you want to try and make it into top 15, cement yourself into game number 2. We've got 2 games left, boys. Some advice for these trios that are just on the outside looking in. Hit me with it, Shy.
Try everything. Keep trying and try to be different so far in day number 1. It's kind of weird to say, but we're not at that halfway point for this qualifier just yet. These 2 games are still kind of the precursor before you really have to adapt, you know, fully change things and lock into a playstyle. So keep playing free and try to do weird things to end up winning games.
Not too weird, because you still have a playstyle though, remember. These guys still have their playstyle, they need to stick to it, and if they go deviate too much, they could do something they're completely not used to. So yes, find the mistakes, make those changes, but don't do anything weird.
There you go, the breakdown. Guys, it's time for game number 5. Let's sit on down in the battle bus and go in with our casters. Over to you, boys.
Thank you, Zeke, Shio, and Reese. And I'm just going to take it from my roots here in Austin, Texas. We're going to keeping it weird here as we're getting into the 2 more games left in Game 5 and Game 6. And we got a nice overview again. Not much has changed. We haven't seen a lot of battles out there in Doom's Domain, but the uncontested spot of Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson, and this is going to be a huge zone for them as it gets revealed. That's going to be an opportunity for them. As we saw in Week 2 Sundown, we had 2 in-games up in Stark Industries POI, and that was why we had such strong finishes from Mitro, Mongrel, and Tayson. But the finish here, the story that is developing right in front of us, let's focus in on Deceptos, Hen, and Patrick.
And they were my prediction when we talked about it last week in qualifier number 2. The one thing about them, a relatively fresh trio in terms of them forming and being able to get together, had a limited amount of practice before the FNCS really kind of were able to come together. And I think the big thing here is just, I don't want to say how reliant they are, but Hen has really done such a phenomenal job of keeping them relevant in key situations and then really stepping up when he needs to, winning key fights, being able to kind of take the resources and put them in the best opportunity to maximize on their points. And that's not to take any credit away from Deceptos or Patrick as well. Both of them have done incredible jobs in terms of executing and being in the right spots at the right time to be able to enable him to clutch up. But in reality, Hen has been the star of the show.
Coming in with an average placements of 9.25, 7 elims average per game, and picking up the victory royale as we're seeing the toxic bubbles of the Slurpy Swamp as we're getting into the Halloween spirit. next week is going to be the Halloween finish, a grand championship Halloween finish, as somebody or a trio will be rewarded the Axe of Champions, and that in itself is going to be awesome to hold on to. But now we're getting a taste of what's going down at Doom's Domain, and it's a good old-fashioned vault battle at the moment here. We've got one team kind of backed in there, the other team kind of pushed their way in, and it is Fremont Floki and Seventor, who are on the bottom of the board, maybe could use this way to, wait for it, vault their way up their leaderboards. Hey! Nothing, Sundown? Nothing? All right.
Oh, you thought I was going to even acknowledge that? Wow.
I thought maybe.
That was rough. I mean, we've had a whole lot of chemistry going through, and we've been building up, and we've been getting better. But after you expecting me to acknowledge something just as pitiful as that, when you also set it up for yourself, no, that's about my opinion. My opinion on that joke is my opinion on this vault fight. And everything we've talked about the vault fights going on at Dooms is it's not worth getting bogged down in fighting over these resources against a team who is of your equal skill level if you're not able to get out of here quickly.
Wait, would you say this fight is a peppermint fight in your books? Huh? I could keep going all day. Just like Captain America, I could do this all day, Sundown, as we have a little bit more. We don't have all day here. Of course, we have only a couple more games, but you mentioned it. We kind of talked about it in their week 1 and week 2. Taking these fights, yes, you get these god tier loot, so to speak, but you leave so injured, and when you have to go up against another heavyweight fight waiting on the outskirts, before you know it, that injury, it just becomes too much to overcome, as Jerky here with 13 points alongside his trio with the setup of the ambush, going to look for a nice wounded opportunity here to kind of capitalize. Goes in with the box breaker play, unable to capitalize that, but this is the kind of fights we're talking about, right? Yeah, you get this elim, but that crash pad in itself, very valuable in its way.
I mean, the way I tend to look at it is if one of those rotational tools can end up saving you in the late game situation and you don't have to use it and you're able to execute in some other way, shape, or form, then more often than not, you're better off saving it. However, right now, when you look at this team, they're trying to push forward for points. They only have 14 so far. They're looking for elimination, so I'm more than okay with that. You get 82 damage on someone, it's early enough. You have some excess crash pads already in your team. Go forward. Press for those eliminations. They're going to be able to clean the fight up there, pick up 3, but I'm okay, especially looking at the inventory across them, knowing, hey, we have this. No team is going to use all 12 of their crash pads rotating. And if you do need to use 12, then you are in a horrible position, and I don't feel bad for you. But the fact that you're able to use 1 or 2 to then kind of enable yourself to get points and then maybe some extra builds and maybe even replenish those crash pads, yeah, I think that's more than fine. When you're in a fight and you've started investing a shockwave and like 1 or 2 crash pads and then like maybe a bouncer offensively, yeah, I'm going to start giving you weird looks and I'm going to call it out because that's never worth it. As now we hop into somebody else, we talk about it, getting bogged down in a fight and not able to resolve it. You can see cleaned up right there was Baby Girl, and that was a full elim, which means this other team wasn't the benefactor of it. They're going to use the crash pad to try and send the player out of zone, but Jamside's not quite able to find one. The Virtus.pro veteran does own the sidewall there. 59 will immediately get the wall in front of him. Good piece control, wall replaced there, pushes forward. Jaspe Lanouf going down there, the hands of Cavado and Jamside from the pinch. That's 3 eliminations going over to that.
And we're seeing the effects of being pushed at somewhere like a POI like Stark Industry. Jaspe, Moraine, and Lunif were landing there confidently in week 1. But with the turn-up factor of the big Grawl and Mitro and Tayson, it just pushed them out and right into the arms of a Jamside, Letwick, and Quavado. So this is what's happening here. The kind of the effect of the, I guess, scientists, the physics of it all, of one force bumping another force is going to just kind of lead this effect here that, you ultimately go into a bad situation. As we're seeing Mappy as well, actually doing really well for their first appearance here in the round 3. Mappy, a player in itself, was holding on very well at in-game. So, hey, long as you can get to in-game, long as you're standing on your 2 feet, you have a strong opportunity to rack up those placement points.
And again, we kind of talk about the composition of these trios, and Left Eye being a competitive veteran from ever ago, attended, played in the World Cup as a part of all of those skirmishes. He's just been around, but then pairing him up with Mappy and Fanagen and being able to make a performance here today so far. 44 points and really trying to push towards that top 15 right on board here now with Zeros, Xcamu, and Trox currently just sitting on 1. You can see Otterworld Paco picking up an Elim on the McDabeast up there in the feed. Still 28 trios remaining. See a little bit of armor tech coming out there from Camo, but there's the big shot, the 70 onto Jerkin. We talked about how this team was going aggressive. Well, now they're kind of paying for it again as Camu getting the drop on him from the high ground. Has a little bit of an interesting position. He's going to want to keep that angle and start working his way downward to try and double back with his team.
And sometimes to pay the toll to the troll, it may cost you your lobby life for a moment here, and that's what's happening is, yeah, you kind of baby step your way as Kumo gets bopped right in the face. It was making way into the box. The Sapiros is holding on strong. Sapiros trio is kind of the ones that kind of play for those positions. And at the moment, they have another trio that's sitting on high right above them. These are the people that are just making their appearance. And when you're first here in round 3, you got to go all out as Sapiros gets converted into leaderboard points. Down he goes lobbied as Zero now is going to make his way back out of this situation and move on as Zero is the only member left of this trio. Can he be the hero that they need to survive? It looks like it's just a matter of moments, Sundown, before the other trio above makes their way down and convert that. And yes, Zero has been zeroed HP'd.
I was about to say he's desperately trying to put the hill between him, but he's heading straight into Clement and Floki right there on the low ground. They're going to be able to pick that one up, no problem. So you can see Sky also getting knocked in the ramp. Moki trying to find a snipe shot, not quite able to find it there. Nitox and Travikskol, his duo or his trio mates right now also on the side. The rotation will be on top of this mountain, so that's actually why you see this trio's kind of fighting. They need to push forward towards that edge, but right now Clement and Floki definitely have the priority position, so we're going to swing on board here. Mongo in a tough spot on the low ground with Mitro also taking down the fight there. Tayson trying to get a little bit aggressive here. This is Stepter and KS1 Light trying to just survive the pressure from these Titans and not survive it, thrive in it. Right there, Stepter picking up a huge knock under Mitro, making him pay for his over-aggression. Nice little double peanut butter shot there, keeping the two triangle edits, and he's going to use the Mitro Classic against Mongo himself, but not going to find the shot. The horizontal shockwave. He says, what's better than one wasted shockwave? Why not 2 wasted shockwaves? As he pushes in, gets the knock onto Mongrel. Can he find the conversion? Stepter with the 1v3 clutch with less than 5 HP. Is he going to be able to find it? Or will Tayson be able to rise to the occasion here? He only needs to breathe in the general direction of Stepter and KS Light, but as that siphon comes through, Stepter will get a much needed reprieve, and all of a sudden, we talked about it, when they goose egg hard, Sancho.
And that egg right now is being laid at the moment, but Tayson, he could get the cards, he could come back. It's just, man, you know the heartbeat of Scepter going so high at the moment, knowing that he got a big-time knock on a deadly trio, knowing that he's barely surviving, but now he has his duo mate right here in KS Light here, and it's a 2v1 situation. And I think this is what's happening that we see. I think Tayson, Mitro, and Mongrel, who always sit up at that high elevation, always try to find somebody on the ropes, and they oh my goodness, what I was going to say, that overconfident pushes sometimes causes them, and you're seeing it right here and there. You get cold so quickly, and they get doused with fire and Septa and KS Light, but hey, they still had a strong performance in the previous game. But you got to feel good of KS Light getting Scepter out. You got to feel good about taking out that trio right then and there with holding that push from them.
If I'm KS Light, honestly, I feel great for Stepter. I'm sitting the whole time like, yeah, good job, Stepter. Yeah, you go. You 1v3 them. Yeah, you do that. As now we hop on board here, Wave advised, and then Otterworld, Paco, and Jachu. You can see the French organization here. Sorry for not giving you that recognition. We'll make sure we shout that name out. But so far, sitting on 6 eliminations and 45 points from the group, doing a good job to make sure they're finding the picks and setting up their drop spots. I think the big thing, particularly for this trio that we've seen, is they're utilizing what they're given. They're not really kind of getting those really big, like, the legendary and the epic loadouts. You don't see the shockwaves in excess like you do in some of these other top teams. But when they're given the utility and they decide to go, they execute it on it very well. which enables them to kind of have these little rooms for making plays. And while their margin of error is a lot slimmer than other teams, they're still able to make it happen. So very impressive performance from them so far. So we're going to hop on board here. You can see Falcon 8, Yagso, and Sky in a very good gatekeeping position where they're in the zone and their opponents are where they're in the safe zone and their opponents are out in the storm, being forced into them. And more importantly, they have that high ground angle to just rain shots on top of them.
This is definitely a metaphor to what's happening here in week 3. If this is your first time tuning in, there's going to be a lot of teams that making their first appearance here as Fremont gets eliminated right then and there. There's going to be a lot of teams trying to get their way in, and only the top 15 advance. We're not there yet. We're not there yet to kind of highlight or amplify what's going on in the leaderboard, but keep that in mind. The top 15 advance here, and there's already so many trios returning who have already qualified, who, as you mentioned, are conditioning or practicing the drops, conditioning the rotations. But all that conditioning right there, Sundown, is getting these, the grease spots out. And that is, when you're one of those players that are in the low and you're trying to do your best to get up these leaderboards, and you got to go through a Tayson, you got to go through maybe a Benji Fishy, or so to speak, it's going to be tough to do.
You have to beat everyone. Let's be honest, this is the FNCS, and this is the last opportunity to get your chance to make it into the heats. But once you're there, it's about making the top 8 in the heats. But ultimately, if you want to be the best, if you want to walk away with that Axe of Champions, with that top prize pool, being the best trio in Chapter 2, Season 4, in what I think is the most competitive region, then you really need to put it all together. Not only do you have to be confident about beating every team next to you, you have to be confident about beating the teams in the other heats and being able to work as a trio throughout the entirety of the game. Not just your initial drop spot, not just the mid game, not just the end game, but putting it together for the entirety of those finals, all 12 of the games. You need to be at your very best level. Otherwise, somebody else is going to rise to that occasion, as we've seen time and time again.
And that is the motivational warrior speech that you can kind of clip and send out, because that is what it takes here for the FNCS trios. That is what you're going to need to walk away with the championship, with the Axe of Champions, and with the street cred or the clout, whatever you want to say, to walk away with that, to let people know that you are a competitor and you are the best of the best. Well said there, Sundown. As we're taking a look overall, here's Alpha, Blaster, Nikov. Now, this is going to be a scary ending. This is going to be one of the best type of difficulties when it comes to in-game. You have so much terrain to navigate. You have a very extreme drop going on to the east side of the coast. And Vettel, Stir 6, and iDrop are now no longer with Star 6. This is one of the surprise trios that kind of surprised everyone in week 1 here, fighting again here in week 3, Sundown.
Yeah, and so far, decent performance, sitting on 46 points. But again, we've kind of talked about this trio in particular. They do very well when they have all 3 of their members up. And they've struggled in particular after that point, once they do have that initial knock, to really kind of get moves going and making plays happen. And I think that's going to end up being a very much decisive factor in what separates the very, very, very top. Like, we're talking the trios who end up placing 1 through 5th, and probably the trios who end up placing 5th through 10th. Like, the trios who are 5th through 10th are going to be the most consistent, the ones who are able to go through, and maybe the ones who sneak in with one, like, super big victory royale. But the teams who are able to get into that 1st through 4th category, not only are they going to be super consistent, but they're going to have a couple games where something goes wrong, where a player goes down early, or maybe somebody's a solo in the end game, and they get a bunch of points that they had no business getting. And we've seen that particularly in EU time and time again, when North America is the region for the Lone Ranger, but EU so far this FNCS has been the place of the clutch, and where those individuals have rose up, and Vettel said he smelt a rat and Squeeze wasn't able to sneak himself into the corner.
That is X Squeeze there. Apparently the change, he used to have me go by X Squeezy at the moment, trying to be a meme, and now he's going by Duck on Top. Try to keep the names going consistently, and maybe we'll build you into a big-time star. You never know. It's hard to keep up when the names keep changing, but the names that have not been changing on top of this board is Matzo, Amplify, and ADN, performing at a very high level. One of the only 2 to make it here in round 3 consistently. week 1, week 2, and round 3. One of the underdog trios, I would say. No one's been talking about him, not even us, as they pick out a big-time Elim on 7 Tour, and that trio goes down. As you see, Link 7 Tour are trying to come make a way up the leaderboards, but it's tough to do when you have such strong trios waiting for you in the throws like Matzo, ADN, and Amplify.
To be fair, I think we've given them a decent amount of credit. I mean, they've just been able to roll over.
Right.
Yeah, not going in. They haven't gotten
it.
any of those like kind of predictions. But I would say, over the course of the broadcast, the amount of coverage and love we've given particularly towards them, and Matzo and Amplify have played together forever. Like, they've been paired up and going back to almost the original trio competition, I think, is when they first burst onto the scene. I started watching these guys. I'm like, who are these kids? They can really play, and they make a lot of really interesting moves. I think the addition of ADN to that pairing in particular has enabled them a little bit more, because ADN, very mechanically strong, very gifted, but also has a strong head on his shoulders when it comes to those late game situations. He knows where to find the right kind of space to navigate, particularly in these very stacked lobbies. He knows how these other teams like to move, and it gives Matzo and Amplify just that little bit of an edge. And as we talk about it, Ottawa Paco finds a huge shot onto Hen. That's the fulcrum for that team. We've talked about it. If the Siptos and Patrick can't create the space to get him back up, that's going to be a huge blow into what was our 5th place team coming into the match. You can see they're looking for him, finding the pressure, and they left him. Hen is left to go back to the lobby. They say, sorry, son, but no reclamation will be had here. 51 players left, 19 trios, half in, half out is revealed on the northern side of the zone as we close in on our placement points.
Ottawa Paco with the Ottawa snipe shot. Down goes Hen, and that's going to be a big factor for that trio, because Hen was the one that you mentioned was the kind of like the brunt of the carry, so to speak, and not in a negative way. Just the performance of Hen was able to kind of get those no business placement points that you were talking about, as AD and Matzo Amplify fighting hip to fit, fighting box to box, working their way through as a true trio, and we're seeing the power of 3 overcoming the power of 1. It's all about mathematics, and it is all about the greater than performances taking out the lower numbers, and that is what's going to go forward here. We're going to try to see how their ride goes out. We've got a lot of FNCS trios. We've got a whole month of action, and it will conclude next week. So don't miss out. We have so much fun. Also, as well, NAE's coming up with Aussie Antics and Monster D-Face. It's going to be a phenomenal run. But the question is, can the phenomenal solo stars of Kinzel, Wolfies, and CRR, not Dump Truck, get it done as a trio? They haven't got a victory royale yet, Sundown. This could be it right here, right now.
They're established pretty solidly. They have a decent high ground position right now. The zone is pulling towards them. Not necessarily the best in terms of movement utility, and you can also see they don't have any white heals, otherwise they would have put them onto Wolfies, which means if it does go to kind of a late heal off situation, they're going to be threatened. Just on top of that, they're under Storm Surge, and on top of that, CRR flubbed his bouncer, which means he's going to be separated now, so they need at least some form of damage to come through. You can see right now Storm Surge will turn off after 20 players have gone down, so Storm Surge is going to be in play for a while across this rotation. Keep an eye on that top left. We need that 50 number to go to a 30 before that 25 damage isn't pressuring the most passive players. That 19 number needs to go to a 17 before the placement points start ticking through. Nobody wants to drop right now, and it's so incredibly disheartening. We're going to switch over to the wide. We see Cavado, jam side, Letwick up on the high ground with minor congestion coming out from the Train H crew. Just below them on the side, we're now hopping back on board as CRR, Kinzel, and Wolfie still only 37 damage above that Storm Surge. 44 players remaining. The rest are being forced not only to rotate, but to look desperately for picks. 43 players remaining, but still 19 trios, as CRR is now dropping down and looking for fights as Kinzel gets picked up here.
And he does get some, and does he finds another fight.